Victoria's Secret, angels or devils? Hello everyone, I'm Sarah from Everyday Starlet. Welcome to my channel. I make videos to inspire you to be the star of your own life. So Victoria's Secret had their recent fashion show. Full disclosure, I didn't watch it. As someone who is recovering from an eating disorder and is healing her body image and things like that, I choose not to watch those kind of shows because it's just not good for my mental health. And honestly, if you find that stuff to be negative, I highly suggest you just tune it out. But there were some trending topics around the Victoria's Secret fashion show that were coming up that I wanted to touch upon. I have their videos where I talk about my struggles with eating disorders, where I've talked about body image and things like that in a lot of other videos. Some of this stuff might be a repeat, but I think some of it is important enough to talk about again. For one, my take on the Victoria's Secret brand, I actually used to shop a lot of Victoria's Secret, probably in my 20s, and that was longer ago than I even care to think about. But I have stuff from Victoria's Secret that's like 20 years old, like dresses and things like that are still in phenomenal condition, that held up really well over the years. I thought the stuff was really great quality for the price. But as time went on, like the stuff that I purchased, say maybe like 10 years ago from them, which was kind of the last time I shopped at Victoria's Secret. I didn't really buy bras from them because they don't really carry my size, but you know, when I've purchased clothing items or like workout wear, anything like that, like the quality of the products was rapidly declining. So like stuff I have from like 20 years ago, still in great condition. Stuff I bought like 10 years ago, like you'd wear it like a couple times and wash it a couple times and like it would just fall apart. Like it didn't have any longevity. And it's not like the price point was changing, so the quality was going downhill. I have not shopped there recently, so I don't know if the quality has improved, but the product itself, from my experience, had gone seriously downhill. So I don't really shop their product. Now, Victoria's Secret kind of became known for using their angels, which were all these like ridiculously tall, ridiculously skinny models with unattainable bodies. And I say unattainable because most of these models didn't even have those bodies. They were torturing themselves to get this look just for the photo shoot or the runway show or something like that. They were known for showing models that were sort of like unattainable bodies. And they stuck by the fact that they were not going to be showing more diversity as far as body shapes and sizes and things like that. You know, when body positivity came along, initially they were like, yeah, no, we're not doing that. We're selling a fantasy. That's their thing. And they kind of backtracked on that. They started to include people of more shapes and sizes and things like that. And they got a lot of pushback. And I've seen a lot of people that are saying like, no, Victoria's Secret models are supposed to have unattainable bodies. Except that Victoria's Secret is a mall store brand. Like their price point is supposed to be attainable. So the idea that the models would be unattainable to the average person when their product is supposed to be purchased by the average person seems hypocritical, especially since, again, it's been a while since I've shopped there, but like their quality had gone seriously downhill. Maybe it's better, and if they're now trying to sell more like luxury unattainable things at like an attainable price, and if that's the idea they're going for, more power to them. I just hope their quality's gotten better, because last time I shopped there, their quality had gone massively downhill. So I have a theory, and there's really no way to test this, but I'm convinced that this is the case. I see a lot of women online that are complaining about Victoria's Secret models and the idea that like they're not supposed to be inclusive, like they're supposed to be exclusive, like they're supposed to have unattainable bodies. I'm convinced that the women that are insisting on Victoria's Secret models having to have unattainable bodies are the same women that defend men who abuse women. I mean, I know that there's no way of actually figuring that out statistically, but I think there's a correlation there. Because I really do believe that any woman that would actually get on the internet and say that they think that the women represented in the media as the beauty standard should have unattainable beauty actually hate women. And I firmly believe that those are the same women that are okay with men abusing women, because that's what it is. I mean, showing unattainable beauty standards in the media to women and telling women that they have to keep chasing those beauty standards is abuse. Like that is abusive, 1000%. Especially nowadays when in order to achieve those beauty standards, you actually have to get anesthesia and cut yourself open and have some surgeon rearrange some things in order to fit the beauty standard, because the beauty standard has gotten so far away from even being looking like you have a natural beauty, and it's become complete artifice. And I already know I'm gonna get the people, well, you bleach your hair. Putting bleach on the dead skin cells that grow out of my head is not the same thing as actually like cutting myself open and having some surgeon rearrange some things. It's not the same thing. It's not. Like, this is hair that's gonna get cut off anyway. No anesthesia needed. Like makeup can be washed off at the end of the day. Now, I do believe that if you are just coloring your hair or putting on makeup or doing anything beauty wise just to please other people, then I would highly encourage you to like look inside yourself and ask yourself why you feel like you need to do those things to please other people. But I do think that things like hair color, makeup, fashion, things like that, I think those can be artistic expression. They can also be pandering to a beauty standard for sure, and I think sometimes you gotta look within yourself to figure out why you're doing it. But the plastic surgery stuff, you know, unless it is a medical necessity for some reason, is incredibly dangerous and incredibly damaging. And I do believe that this unattainable beauty standard is actually abusive to women. It 1000% is. I have a theory that Victoria's Secret models and the women that are like, Victoria's Secret models have to be unattainable beauty standards. Like, they have to be aspirational. Like, they have to be this unattainable beauty. I think there's two types of women that say things like that. Like, I cannot fathom that mentality. I cannot fathom a woman having that mentality. But I think those women fall into two categories. They're either the female equivalent of the men that are like, I would have been in the NFL if it wasn't for my knee injury. Like that kind of thing, or like I would have been in the NBA but I was just like a couple inches too short or something like that, or whatever. Like they're the female equivalent of that. Like, they're convinced because they fit a beauty standard, but they're just not quite, like, say, tall enough or something. They want to convince themselves that, like, they could have been that unattainable beauty standard, so they want to keep that fantasy in their mind that, like, that's the beauty standard to try to achieve. That's one type of woman. I also think there's a type of woman that knows she's never going to achieve that level of beauty standard, so she doesn't want there to be inclusivity, because it's like, if she can't become that beauty standard, like if she can't become a Victoria's Secret model, then no woman should be able to do it. So it's like, well, let's only let these few beyond human women have this job, but like, God forbid a woman that might have like slightly bigger hips or something like that, like how dare she get to have that opportunity? It's like they want to keep it exclusive because it's like, then they can convince themselves that like they're almost there, they just weren't quite perfect. But like, if a woman who isn't deemed perfect by society's beauty standards gets in, then it's a reminder that like they're not quite good enough. I don't know if I explained that perfectly, but like, I think it's like an inferiority thing, and like I want to withhold this opportunity from other women because I don't have that opportunity. Like the type of woman that's like, okay, I'm not a Hadid sister, so obviously I can't have that opportunity. But if a woman that might be like, say, slightly curvy or something, like gets that opportunity, she can't convince herself that she's superior over the curvier girl because the skinniness is no longer a superiority. I don't know if I even explained that properly. It made sense in my head. I hope that I explained that properly. The thing that I find so weird about women that are so averse to body shape and body size diversity in the modeling industry, and like the pushback from body positivity, which I have other videos talking about how I think that the media handled body positivity wrong and why that happened and everything, so I have other videos going into that. But I do think the reason why a certain group of women are so opposed to like body shape and size diversity in the modeling industry or the Victoria's Secret fashion shows is because they feel like they need to hang on to their superiority as a skinny woman. I have a hard time fathoming how thin women could have been so horribly offended by the body positivity movement, because as someone who did, like, I was a body positivity or body confidence content creator at one point, that movement was never about telling thin women there was something wrong with them. It was actually about wanting acceptance when you had a body that was outside the very narrow standard of beauty that was being pushed in the media. But body positivity never told women that it was wrong to be skinny, and in fact, at no point in the history of the media has there been a lack of representation of thin women as a beauty standard. Like, never. There's never in the history of the media been a lack of thin women being represented as the beauty standard in the media. I have to keep reiterating that because thinness has always been a part of the beauty standard. Sometimes in the course of history, there have been, like, women's bodies have been trends, unfortunately. They shouldn't be, but they are. So sometimes being curvier becomes more of the beauty standard and things like that. Like, there's some variation in that. But there has always been a representation of thin women in the media. So when I hear women that push back so much on the concept of having body diversity in the media, like for example in the Victoria's Secret fashion show and things like that, it kind of boggles my mind because it's like, we're not taking away the representation of thin women in the media. They're always going to be there. It's simply, they're not the only women that exist in the media. And it actually kind of boggles my mind at how many women, particularly thin women, like, cannot handle the idea that there is other types of representation of other bodies in the media, because they will always have thin women they can look to as a representation of the beauty standard. There always will be. So I've been seeing these posts, and I don't even know where this originated, but I'm seeing these posts of these women that are like, oh my god, tall, thin women get bullied so much growing up, and they finally find a place in the modeling industry, and now these models are being replaced by, you know, these influencers and athletes and these women that don't fit this tall, thin model standard and stuff. First of all, if you were a tall, thin woman and you have been growing up, I'm not saying that people haven't criticized your body. Most women at some point in our lives are going to experience somebody criticizing our body. Unfortunately, it's part of the female experience. It shouldn't be, but it is. And it should be something that we can all collectively understand. And I don't like taking away other women's lived experiences. However, I can very confidently say that being a tall, thin woman, you will never, ever understand bullying in the way that an overweight woman has to experience bullying. Like, never. And I can say this very confidently because, for one, as a woman who was always growing up one of the tallest kids in her class, and I don't mean like just one of the tallest girls, I was always one of like the top 5 tallest kids, male or female, in my class. So I was always tall. I was never skinny. And I can tell you, I was never once, ever once, bullied for my height. Ever. And the tall, skinny girls that were my height but skinny did not get a fraction of the criticism that I got. So I can very confidently say that while yes, I'm sure that some of these women do experience negative comments, body image issues and things like that, it is not even in the same universe, okay? Having somebody tell you you're skinny, eat a sandwich is nothing. Like, I would have loved to have had that insult growing up. Like, I would have killed for that insult. No, I had people telling me I was gonna die of diabetes when I wasn't even that big, to be totally honest with you. And I have never been diabetic. At my heaviest weight in my 40s, I have never been diabetic. But I have people on the internet now that are telling me I'm gonna die of diabetes. Sorry, got blood work, not diabetic. The scrutiny, the criticism that women get for being overweight, like, I'm not saying that thin women don't get criticized. I'm sure you do. Every woman is gonna experience that. We shouldn't, but it happens. This idea that like tall, skinny women are so bullied, because there's always representation in the media of tall, thin women, especially if you're somebody who grew up in like the 90s and the 2000s. Like, if you were tall and thin, like maybe you got bullied when you were in elementary school a little bit. You got to go and look at fashion magazines and look at TV shows and see your body represented everywhere as the beauty standard. Girls who were bigger did not get that. We didn't get to go to school, get bullied, and then come home and then see our body represented as beautiful in the media. We did not get that privilege. We didn't get that kind of reassurance that no, we are beautiful. No, there is good in us. We literally just got bombarded with the images of women of these unattainable bodies that were considered the beauty standard. So like, you get bullied at school, but then you go home and you're looking at magazines and you're looking at television and movies and the media everywhere, and it's like, it's reinforcing that bullying. Whereas you can absolutely, if you're just skinny and you're getting made fun of at school, you can look at the media and see plenty of skinny women getting praised and put up on pedestals as the beauty standard anywhere you go. Also, I gotta say, with all this conversation around the Victoria's Secret fashion show and the idea that like model bodies are supposed to be unattainable bodies, we have really lost the plot about what the actual job of a model is supposed to be. The actual job of a model is to show the consumer clothing on a human body so that that person can see the clothing on a human body as opposed to like laying flat or just on a hanger. It's supposed to be showing the consumer what the clothing would look like on a human body. Really, in order for a model to truly be doing their job, they would need to have a body that would represent what the clothing would look like on that particular consumer. So the idea of a model having an unattainable body is actually not doing the job of an actual model, because you want the consumer to see what the clothing would look like on a body like theirs. Now, obviously, you're not going to be able to find, models to fit every single consumer's body. And, to have every clothing item shown on every single type of body would probably not be practical. But at the end of the day, the best model would be somebody that is a representation of what the majority of women's bodies look like. And throwing in some variations, throwing in what the clothing would look like on somebody that might be a little bit smaller, shorter or thinner or taller or whatever than the average, or maybe somebody who might be curvier or bigger or something, but that the majority of models should be the size of the majority of people that are consuming the product. That would be the point of a model. The fact that we have created this idea that models are supposed to have bodies that women are supposed to aspire to is like, well, maybe if you're selling a fitness program, but not when you're selling clothing, because the clothing is supposed to be what it looks like on your body now. And this idea that models are supposed to be this aspirational look is actually not what a model's job is even supposed to be. Now, there's a lot of different reasons for that. I mean, I think some of it is somewhat innocent enough. The fashion industry is run by men, particularly gay men, so I think there's no surprise that a lot of these women and the standard of beauty tends to be lacking in any sort of shape on a woman. It tends to be straight up and down. I'm not gonna go into why that is, but you can probably figure that out. Also too, it's easier to tailor clothes on models that are straight up and down, that don't have curve, that don't have shape. Also, the smaller the model, the less fabric you have to use, so it's kind of a money-saving thing. I think there's also the idea that the fashion industry is in with the beauty industry and the fitness industry, and this idea that we have to keep women chasing this unattainable goal. I think now they're in it with the pharmaceutical industries and plastic surgeons and things like that to get women spending more money on this stuff. So it's not even just about selling the clothes, but it's about selling women chasing this unattainable look. It's all part of consumerism, which I think is part of a bigger ploy. I mean, again, there's so many different reasons for this, but at the end of the day, the role of a model should be to represent what the clothing will look like on a woman's body. So if you look at the clothing and you see that clothing, you want to say, that's what that will look like on my body. So having models that have unattainable bodies that don't represent the majority of people doesn't really make sense if you actually think about it. And the way that people are like criticizing the plus-sized models that walked in the Victoria's Secret fashion show, which, let's be real, are probably not even actually in plus size clothing. Although you could make the argument that if a fashion brand sells plus size clothing, they should be using plus size models as well. I know I've said this before. Look, this might be a controversial take, but I believe this with 1000% of my soul. Nobody in society gets criticized more than a pretty overweight woman. Because here's the thing, if you're pretty, then you fit into the classic beauty standards that we have in society, and you're thin, especially if you're naturally thin. You're just God's chosen person. You are. And I'm not saying that that means that you don't have problems in life, but as a woman, being pretty and being thin is gonna solve the vast majority of your problems. You're gonna live a life that most of us will never fully understand. If you are not conventionally attractive as a woman, but you are thin, like you're skinny, you're an unconventional beauty. Might be controversial, but the vast majority of models are actually not pretty. Like at all. In fact, most of them, if they were overweight, would be completely ignored. They're just tall and skinny. And you can get away with being an unconventional beauty if you're tall and skinny. If you are not a conventional beauty, but you're overweight, you're probably gonna get ignored. And I'm not saying that that isn't painful, because, you know, for most of us, we deeply desire to be seen, but you can kind of fly under the radar as far as criticism goes. So you're not gonna get attacked probably as much. Maybe if you put yourself out there, people might go after you, but like generally speaking, it's easier for you to fly under the radar. If you are pretty, like, so you are conventionally attractive, like you fit the standards of beauty, but you are overweight, you become the world's project. People feel like it is their responsibility to tear you down so that you will lose the weight, so that you will be the pretty skinny girl. The people that you don't even know that will come out of the woodwork and feel justified in bullying you to the point where they're trying to break you into losing weight to be skinnier. We've seen it with like Jessica Simpson, classic example of that. What she has done to herself is just heartbreaking. And again, anybody who's praising her and what she looks like now, seriously, read her book. Like, she's not doing safe and healthy things to herself in order to fit the beauty standard, and she's always been stunning, but the way that she has been treated in the media, like the way that people attack Ashley Graham, like to criticize her for being a runway model, when it's like her only curse is the fact that she is pretty and not skinny. She's not even overweight, she's just not skinny. The way that people feel this right to harass pretty women that happen to not be skinny into desperately trying to be skinny is like overwhelming. Look, I'm not somebody who likes to go around and brag about her appearance by any means, because I know when you put yourself out there like that, people are really comfortable tearing you down. But like, I'll get people that will come online and call me ugly. And I'm like, you know what? I'm not saying I'm some kind of supermodel. I would never come on here and say that. I don't have that level of confidence, let alone arrogance. But like, I fit the conventional standards of beauty. Let's be real. And like, without having to get any work done. There are people that pay to have my nose. I know I fit the conventional standards of beauty. I'm 45 years old. I've had no Botox, no fillers, and I don't even have any wrinkles. I fit the conventional standards of beauty. So when people come online and call me ugly, the only way I don't fit into your conventional standards of beauty is because, one, I don't have the overworked Instagram face, which has now become the conventional standard of beauty, but also I'm a little bit heavier than what the conventional standard of beauty would be. That's it. That's all it is. But people feel very comfortable coming online and calling me ugly. And look, you know, I can fluff that stuff off because I'm old and crotchety and don't really care about people's opinions nearly as much. I will tell you, for the young girls, that is one of the beauties of getting older. 30 was a big shift for me of just like, you just have way less craps to give about anything that people have to say about you. It breaks my heart because I feel like every time somebody comes online and calls someone like me ugly, like, I know in my youth, if someone had called someone like me, who fits most of the conventional standards of beauty, ugly, it would have gotten into my head as like, oh my god, if she's ugly, how bad must I be? And that's where it really starts to bother me when people do that stuff, because it's like, I'm not saying that that stuff never gets to me, and I'm not saying that it doesn't hurt sometimes. I'm human, but I worry about that message being sent to the younger generation of girls, of what calling somebody ugly who fits the general standards of beauty. I mean, literally the only way that I don't is I'm not overworked with a face that's frozen because I have like Instagram face, because I haven't done that to myself, and I'm a little bit heavier. That's really it. So if young girls see that being called ugly, like, what is that gonna tell them? What is that going to tell the girl that doesn't have a nose that fits the conventional standard of beauty? Is that going to send the, oh, well, if she's ugly, then how bad must I be? Like, I worry about those kind of things. I worry about that message that gets passed down to the younger generation. I noticed that Madison Beer performed at the Victoria's Secret fashion show, and I've had people that have requested that I talk about her, and I don't really know that much about her, but it seems like the prevailing message I'm hearing about her is people are saying, oh my god, she's a natural beauty who naturally looks like she has this Instagram face, and that, you know, that's why she's not more famous, is because people just think she's had all this work done, but she actually naturally looks that way. And I've had people ask me, like, do you think you can really be like too pretty to be in the entertainment business? And I'm like, no. I'm sorry. I just feel like the fact that people are so delusional at thinking that she naturally looks the way that she does is disturbing to me. Like, it's disturbing. Like, it's actually, it's terrifying me. She's clearly had work done. And I actually had someone on another video that I posted about plastic surgery and stuff on TikTok. Somebody posted like a before and after picture of her, and people were like, yeah, she's just had like lip filler, that's it. And I'm like, how do you not know that these are like, they look like two totally different people? The people that cannot spot how drastic people's plastic surgery is very concerning. And I don't say this to just sit here and like tear down women, because I feel for these girls that feel like they have to get plastic surgery, especially so young. I say this for a more important reason, because there's so many stories that are coming out now of like, oh, is this thing AI, or is this thing created, or did this person really say this because it looks like AI? And there's a lot of AI stuff out there that's making it look like there are certain people that are saying things they're not saying. AI is going to have a much easier time taking over, because we are so used to seeing people, particularly women, who have faces and bodies that are completely lab created. They don't look like you would find in nature. Madison Beer, like, her look, not found in nature. It's not. Like, it's not something that anybody was born looking like. The boob job alone, I just don't understand how people can think it's natural. Like, it's just the looks. Like, every woman now is looking like she has like an AI filter over her face. And it's actually crazy, because like when I was calling out, say, like Erica Kirk for having work done, and people are like, she's only in her 30s, she's not getting Botox and fillers. There are women, there are girls getting this stuff done like in their teens and 20s. The way that women are messing with their faces and bodies like before they're even 18 and old enough to consent to this stuff is insane. And I say this because this normalization of women looking completely fake, a look that is not found in nature. Kylie Jenner is not found in nature. Nothing about her is natural. And we've almost forgotten what real natural faces and bodies look like. Like, the number of people that were like, well, Kim was beautiful before. Yeah, Kim was beautiful before because she looked like a beautiful Armenian girl. Like, she was stunning. But she took away all those features. Like, she took away everything that made her unique. Bella Hadid has talked about the fact that she feels bad that she took away all of her Palestinian features. We're taking away the beauty of different faces and different cultures, and we're making everybody look like cookie cutter versions of each other. And that makes it a lot easier for them to create AI people, and for them to, at this point in time, if they were to just make an AI generated Kylie Jenner, how would you know? Because nothing about her is real and natural. If you made an AI generated Kim Kardashian, probably wouldn't look any different than the actual Kim Kardashian. I don't say the real Kim Kardashian, because the real Kim Kardashian doesn't even look like the real Kim Kardashian. Oh my God, these things that these women are doing, it's so dangerous. Again, when you see someone like a Madison Beer, and I don't really even know that much about her or what she does or anything like that, but the way that people are so delusional in thinking that she just naturally looks like this is actually disturbing. I'm terrified for where this is going. I am. And again, I don't like calling out women like this. Like, I don't get joy out of this. I don't get joy out of criticizing women in this way. I don't get joy out of criticizing women's bodies or women's appearances or anything like that. It breaks my heart. And it's something I wish I didn't have to do, because women get enough criticism about their bodies. So please understand that the only reason I am saying this is because I believe that it is so dangerous for so many other women that I'm like, you know what? If Kylie Jenner has to take my criticism, if Madison Beer has to take my criticism, if Kim Kardashian or whatever has to take my criticism, then that's a small price to pay if I can get through to the younger girls or the next generation, or women even my age that are contemplating whether or not they should be getting work done. If it convinces regular women to not go that path, and I have to criticize these women to do it, you know, I don't like doing it, but like, it's a small price to pay. I also, on the subject of plastic surgery, I kind of heard some interesting conversations online talking about like the normalization of breast implants and how common implants were, things like that. And I feel like the conversation always goes to, oh yeah, there's an implant trend. There was an implant trend in this time period, or there is an implant trend coming. But like, no, this trend is moving out because now smaller boobs are trending. I find it very interesting that the conversation around women's chest size is always like, it's either implants or it's small chests. Only conversation. We never actually have a representation of naturally full-busted women. That's never the beauty standard, ever. Now, I would stand by the fact that even in the height of the implant era, flat-chested women are still represented in the media. They always have been, they always will be. Flat-chested women will always be represented in the media by the beauty standard. Implants will kind of go in and out of trending. Flat-chested women will always be represented in the media. Naturally full-busted women are never represented in the media. And I can guarantee you, if you start trying to list like, oh, but what about this person? What about this person? They're either not really that full-busted. They're either actually just like not flat-chested, or they're fake and they're trying to convince you that they're real. The representation of real chests, like real natural large chests in the media, never a thing. It's never been a thing. That's one of the things that angers me the most about pushback from the body positivity movement, because I will tell you, as someone who is like, during the body positivity movement, I was like the thinnest I'd ever been, but I'm still very naturally full busted. So I have a very, very hard time purchasing bras, like very hard time. That time during the body positivity movement, when so many brands were trying to expand their size ranges, was the first time I could actually buy a variety of bras in a size that fit me. Now that the body positivity movement is kind of wrapping up and a lot of these brands have hit problems with the economy and things like that, it's almost impossible to buy bras in a variety of sizes. And I'm not even talking about like plus sizes or people being like, just lose weight. Because if I lost like 50 pounds, I still wouldn't be able to buy bras in my size, because that's just not how I'm built. And I mean, I think it's similar with a lot of women that are complaining about brands like shrinking their plus size ranges or things like that. Like, there's more to it than just the representation of women in the media. It's actually like clothing brands actually providing sizes that can fit different women and different women's bodies and things like that. And I understand that most brands are going to have to cater to the majority of women, so they're going to have sizes primarily in ones that are going to cater to the majority of the population, because, you know, that's how they make money. But I do think it really is heartbreaking that so many brands are actually like eliminating some of their more unconventional sizes to save money. I just want to wrap up this discussion about the Victoria's Secret fashion show. This one last thought, because there's always a discussion when it comes to body positivity or body diversity or things like that. When it comes to the concept of thinness or things like that, everybody wants to bring up health. Oh, we just care about health. Here's how I know that thinness and this popularity of thinness and this like anti bigger bodies thing is not really about health. We were seeing all this stuff just like within the last month or so about Bella Hadid being hospitalized. She was hooked up to IVs. The story is that she's been suffering from Lyme disease and she's been having all kinds of complications. I've seen a lot of rumors that it's not really about the Lyme disease, that it's actually a front for something else. I don't really know. But she's obviously been having complications. Her mother Yolanda has talked about her struggles, and, you know, Bella Hadid has talked about her struggles up and down with her health and things like that. She recently walked in the Victoria's Secret fashion show. She's thin. She's not healthy. This is not a healthy woman, okay? This is a woman who just recently was hospitalized and hooked up to IVs and has said she's not doing well. But yet, she's paraded around like the epitome of beauty. But she's not healthy. Don't criticize like an Ashley Graham, who as far as we know was not hospitalized and hooked up to IVs and things like that. And she's walking around, as far as we can tell, healthy. But yet Bella Hadid is not healthy. But yet Bella Hadid is the standard of beauty. You can't tell me that the standard of beauty equates to health. It doesn't. It's not about health. It's never been about, oh, men just are attracted to women that are more fertile. Because these women that are insanely thin, that are starving themselves to be absolutely thin and be straight up and down and not have any shape or any curve to them, or they just buy some shape and curve, they just, you know, buy some implants and they buy some silicone injections and whatever, that doesn't make them more fertile, okay? And that doesn't make them healthier by any means. It's never been about health. It's never been about health. It's about making a certain beauty standard that is unattainable to women, so that women are constantly distracted chasing that beauty standard, and they are spending money chasing that beauty standard, and they are torturing themselves chasing that beauty standard. That has always been what it's about. It is not about your health. Anyway, I have a lot of videos on my YouTube channel about my history with body image, my struggles from ED. I'm actually doing really well with it. I've had people comment that I've lost weight, which, you know, I will tell you is absolutely me healing my body. Like, I'm not torturing myself, I'm not starving myself. I'm actually, like, for the first time in my life, truly enjoying food, but I'm not binge eating, which is just can't tell you how big a change that is for me. Yeah, I've just been doing really well, and I'm not talking about it as much on my channel because those videos just haven't been doing as well. But I don't watch things like the Victoria's Secret fashion show and things like that, like, because it's just not, it's really not healthy for me. You know, let's be real, most of these models are not real. And it's not just that they have unattainable bodies. They're surgically altered in some way. I'm trying to, you can't avoid that completely, unfortunately. In the world today, it is what it is. Those are the beauty standards, but I'm trying to eliminate that. Like, if I see somebody come up in my feed and like they're really obviously, like they really obviously have work done, you know, I mean, unless it's somebody that I think has really important information or something like that, like I try to scroll past it. Like, because for me, I don't want to constantly see the fake faces and stuff, you know, or the fake bodies or whatever. Like, I don't want to constantly see that. I just don't think it's healthy to constantly see that. You obviously can't avoid it completely. That's just the world we're in, unfortunately, because so many women have fallen for that beauty standard. But don't watch things that are making you feel like, oh my God, I should look like this or I should look like that. Just work on healing that stuff within yourself. So if you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please give it a big thumbs up and be sure you subscribe to my channel. If you have any thoughts on the Victoria's Secret fashion show, the models, anything I talked about in this video, please let me know. Leave a comment in the comment section below. I'd love to hear from you. And honestly, any engagement on this channel really does help to boost it in the algorithm so more people can get this message. If you want to heal your body image issues, I highly recommend you check out my guided journals, Recovering Pick Me Girl guided journal and the Dark Feminine Energy guided journal. There's actually a whole chapter in the Recovering Pick Me Girl guided journal about body image. It's really about healing from the way that society puts pressure on women to like conform to some kind of like ridiculous standards that we were never really intended to fit into anyway. They're both available on Amazon. Details are in the description box below, along with links to all my social media accounts. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you join me next time.